As promised, my friend, I hope we're still friends. She was pissed off at me a couple weeks ago. So we're gonna have a therapy session right in front of all of you coming up. And one of my favorite parts, this might be 3 months in, this might be one of my favorite parts. Watch Lindsay's face as I read off her credentials. This is the best.
No.
Lindsay
I'm getting an end call in the beginning.
Then we have no show. Then it's T2. We have no show. So you're kind of stuck for a second. 55 singles titles, 38 doubles, 3 majors. 8th woman to ever win 700 matches. She ended it with 753. Just showed off in the last 53. 4 times. This is, for me, this is the most impressive. 4 times year-end #1. And threw in an Olympic gold for good measure. And she hates talking about her accomplishments maybe more than any other human alive. So I won't make her awkwardly say something after I read off her credentials. Lindsay, you know I love you. Thank you for coming on and joining Served.
Well, I had to come on. Like, you're taking over. Like, my son's listening. He won't like read a book or do his school, but he like dies every week to see when your episode is like coming out and like listening to it and then telling us all about it. So I hear a lot about it.
So wait, he's becoming like John. He's just not reading any books.
No, there's like zero studying, zero education going on. So really, the pressure falls on you because you're about all he listens to.
Oh gosh, that's a low bar. So I do want to get straight to it because I did talk about how I fear a couple of things on this podcast. I don't fear much feedback. Like, I'm okay with most speed bumps. 2 things I fear is I know anytime I say anything nice or bad about Novak, I'm going to get slaughtered one way or the other. Like, that's a given. And I said, I fear you being mad at me. It really hit me more than I thought it would. So I'm going to give you my take from my side, and then I want you to tell me what I'm getting wrong and provide me the appropriate context. So Lindsay just finished her first successful weekend as captain for Billie Jean King Cup, did a great job down there in Orlando. And so in the lead-in, I'm doing what do we call it? Internet thing on TC Live, the segment we do where we don't see the internet clips. And also, I will say, I can't hear them. So I'm reacting to like a video.
Oh, because God. Is that really?
That's true.
Can't hear them. Okay.
I can't.
Okay.
I can't. Like when I can only hear Prakash's thing. Like, I can't hear his things when he's interviewing internationally. I get world feed and I'm watching the studio. So, but it doesn't change my opinion because I have watched it since.
Okay.
So I said something that was horrible that I actually pissed Lindsay off.
We have the clip. We can play it.
Thank you.
We can play it right now.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. No problem.
This is Eminem Navarro.
Not that many of us have degrees, but I am quite sure we can all agree we'll look back on this time with smiley faces.
Okay, so
There's more.
There's more.
Okay,
No más. No más.
there's more.
So, y'all, this is rookie rap.
I'll tell you,
y'all.
I
Thanks for
oh.
being- I'm trying to make the car.
Crowd goes wild, apparently.
That's just, I mean,
okay.
even to
That's-
make that effort make the effort is an A+, just to make the effort.
Well, you have to. It's part of being on the team. What I will say is, like, the best thing about her rap ability is that she's playing great tennis this year.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
She did it in the right style.
Okay. So, so Lindsay texts me and it's like, basically it goes full mama bear, right? Is like, it's the night before, or, her first day of captaincy. So I'm hoping she was just nervous and needed to I took John's place and she just needed to annihilate someone for the day. So I got in trouble for basically saying that Emma Navarro is a better tennis player than a rapper, but I didn't hear the rap during the first reaction during the segment we're talking about. I just looked in all of the enthused fans' faces. And it was like someone kicked a puppy or something. That was their reaction. And so I just need you to say why you were so pissed at me, because what I said, do you think Emma Navarro is a better rapper than tennis player?
No, but you were such a dick about it. Okay, so here is this amazing young lady, honestly, amazing sport, super shy lady, and gets like thrown into this situation. We didn't even tell her she had to do this.
Who threw her into this shy person into this situation?
Okay. So it's my very first captain's meeting. I'm like, you know me, I'm like stressed about everything. I'm like, okay, how many feet can I walk from the bench? Who can I talk to? What are the rules? Like trying to learn everything. And the Belgian captain, Wim Tessette, great coach, who's obviously done it before, was like, oh, by the way, I have a rookie. I'm going to have her give a speech at the reception. I was like, yeah, that's fine. Like, no problem. And I'm like, okay, wait. So what happens when, so I'm going back to like the captain's meeting. So I forgot about it. My bad. So we're literally in the bus on the way to the official reception. All the dignitaries from the countries and the ITF are there. And very nice woman from the USTA, Jessica, is going over with me exactly how the rundown of it's going to go for the team. And she mentions like the rookie speech. I was like, oh shit, I forgot to tell her. So I was like, oh, Emma, there's like a rookie thing. And I think like they have you speak or like do a rap. Someone had I remember hearing that before. And Taylor Townsend goes, oh yeah, you got to give a rap. And she's like, in 15 minutes? And we're like, yeah. And I didn't think anything of it. She kind of gets quiet and gets on her phone.
It sounds like you put her in a rough position.
Literally wrote it on the way there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, preparation might have solved for all of my my comments.
So
I mean, I don't.
So,
now,
okay, wait. You have to let me finish here. So the Belgian rookie goes and gives a very nice speech just thanking the Belgian Federation and her coaches, and really simple. So I'm like, oh, Emma's going to get up there and do that. And no, she rapped for like 6 verses and kept going. And I thought she was great. For a shy person to get up there and do that was awesome. And then you on the show just kind of shit all over her. And then I would like, I showed the team. I was like, can you believe he said this?
So good. Thank you. Yeah, let's make it a bigger deal. Yeah, let's make it even bigger deal. That should help her embarrassment.
Our guest list is getting shorter.
Then this was actually the best part. So then I'm sure I still have it here. You then sent me like 9 texts. Like, really? Are you really mad? I'm so sorry. Like, oh, so then I was like reading it to maybe Taylor or someone, and she's like, oh, leave him on red. Just leave him on red. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to answer him. That was like my big thing for like 24 hours.
two things can be true, right? So the 2 things can be true. I like having her like. What do you want? Should I applaud effort? Like I don't. And also, I need you to also. The goal of having her do something embarrassing is what?
It was like the history of it. Didn't you guys used to do that?
Yeah, and then we all ripped on each other afterwards.
Well, but I don't know. I was impressed that she did it. She could have kind of weaseled out of it and just gave like a little speech. The other thing, I just also think like she is your type of player. I mean, this player is all about competing and like fiery, and will figure it out. Doesn't walk away. Doesn't look for the exit. And she went for it.
Here's the thing. Okay, so. Even on air, any opinion I've ever had of her, and we go back and forth, and believe it or not, Lindsay and I actually have a very good relationship, I would say, or at least I hope so. I think so. Maybe I'm going 9 and 90 and she's going 10. But, we trade texts about players and talk about, things. I love Emma Navarro. Like, I think she is awesome. I for the life of me, out of everything that's ever come out of my mouth around Lindsay Davenport, I would have lost our house thinking that the thing that was offensive was saying that the best thing about her rapping ability is that she's great at tennis.
It was you gave like a moan and a grunt, like, ugh, like all of that. The whole vibe was a little negative, I felt like. I thought Paul was trying to be very positive, and I just thought you should be a little more supportive.
Of people doing embarrassing shit, I could not be more supportive of that. I couldn't be more supportive of people doing embarrassing stuff. Also, like you're the coach, but if you sit here and tell me that was the greatest thing ever, we're losing credibility as a captain. The way I see it. Like,
okay, can we move on? What's the next topic? Go.
Listen. But I will say, having Lindsay mad at me, and when she sent it, I didn't know if she was just giving me shit back, which is like what she's prone to do. Like she troll. If I ever have like a late night and she gets all, she'll troll, and I love it, and it's the best, right? You know, if you're gonna give it, you got to be able to take it. I felt it hurt my soul to think that. And it was like the day that she was like her first day of captaining. I wake up the next morning because she sent it at like 11:30. Like, you send stuff at 11:30 because it's been pissing you off all day. Like, absolutely. And so I wake up the next morning. I'm like, my heart hurts.
That's actually not true. That wasn't true.
You can't tell me when I read it.
I didn't see the clip until like I was in bed, like searching like social media. So, but I wrote you right away when I saw it. I didn't like it. Okay.
I didn't get it till the next morning. And then I was trying to ask the question of like, without digging my hole further, of I can't tell if you're really mad at me or not. Because I didn't want to discount the way that she was feeling, but also I couldn't believe that in the history of our relationship, this was the thing that was too far.
No, but
I will say he was pretty banged up about it. We were taping that day.
Devastated. I was like, before I was like, I'm asking like our team.
You got him deep. So I you know what? It worked.
I don't like it.
Lindsay.
I don't like it when Lindsay's mad at me. Like I stand by what I say. Like I'm not. We're
I
just
can't
going to
believe that.
disagree.
Well, I would have never guessed that.
Oh my God, we're going to disagree on it. Two things can be true. I don't think what I said was that bad, and also I never want Emma to like be.
It was your tone.
Mad at her.
Your tone was shitty.
Oh shit! You sound like Brooke. It's not the facts, and it's not the output. It's the tone. Which I can't. Well, I mean, it was more like the tone. Like all I do is I see her and I can't hear it, and then it pans to the crowd. It's literally no less than 150 old white people.
I think that was my video too. I think that was me taking that video.
Okay, so another thing that then you put it on the internet. Like
I didn't put it on the internet. It was not. That wasn't the clip. The clip on the internet was from like the official people. They made it look much nicer, and they put like a beat behind it. Listen to that one.
Well, oh, good. So sorry. So it's actually okay. Let's just come to we're gonna close the loop on this.
I forgave you. We moved on.
Where I think our common ground is that Mike, you didn't get me the one that Lindsay had applied mad beats to. So we need to give it enough. We need to give it.
You know what? To settle this conversation so we can move on, it's my fault.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, well let's make a transition away. I hope we're fine. I just needed we need to clear the air before we could have a normal conversation. Beyond the rap, your girls did an unbelievable job. Day one, I thought you kind of got thrown into the fire right away because even though you all were the overwhelming favorites, a couple of tight ones. Describe that day. Going in, I can tell you were nervous because you were berating me. But walk us through that day, what your expectations were, how proud you were of your team for maybe not even playing their best, but just figuring it out. Like those were actually better wins, I think, because of that.
I couldn't agree more. It was early in the week when it was Jess Pagula who said, like, oh, I don't even care what they ranked. Everybody knows that people play their best in these situations, in this format, in this event. So the team was kind of prepared for that. We played in 2000, and I told the ladies about this. I think it was Celis and Capriati, myself, and Lisa Raymond. And we played a young Belgian team that was Kleisters and Enner. And we knew that they were these great juniors. And I think we all went 3 sets. It was like crazy. And it was like, oh, wow, that was maybe tougher than we thought it was going to be. These young Belgians played great. It was actually super fun to see. They were ready for the moment. And you kind of love that also when you're watching, because you see some players go out there and they're maybe like deer in the headlights. These 2 young ladies were not. And the first match just did not play her best. She's been trying to change a few things, as you know, and we were kind of working on a couple things that she brought into the week, and she didn't play her best. But you know what? She fought really hard, and that was great. She was able to get the win. Which really helped the team. Emma then goes out there. This was actually, for me, the craziest moment of the whole week. So all week in practice, everyone was playing really well. Madison came up just a little bit with a foot that was bugging her. Taylor was a little bit sick all week. So we were kind of dealing with a little, every week, there's always a little things that kind of come up. But Emma was playing amazing in all the practices, winning and feeling good. she gets down a break early in the first, and I was like, Emma, you're not using your forehand. Like, that's been your most improved shot. It's like your biggest weapon now with your fitness. Like, you got to start using your forehand. And she just looks at me with these like calm eyes. She's like, well, every time I hit my forehand, I have this like shooting pain going down my elbow into my hand, and like my hand is tingling. It feels like a little numb. I was like, wait, what?
Wait, how many games into your captaincy is this? Is it
7? Said 3-4 in the first. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah. And she's kind of like shaking her arm out. And I'm like, well, we should call the trainer. So this was the second best part. She's like, I've never called a trainer. I don't really want to do that. I'm like, oh, okay. So she gets up. I go and turn around and talk to the team physio. And she's like, nope. Hadn't heard that. So she comes back over. It's 4-5. We talk a little bit again. Anyway, she loses the set. And I said, I think you should probably call the physio out. Even if she helps you like 5%, it might really help. Maybe she gives you even more relief. And that seemed like a huge thing for her. She was like quiet for a few seconds. And then she was like, okay, let's do it. So that was, I think, like whatever phobia she had about that, she got over that. She then gets down a break in the second, and she's trying to figure out exactly how can I hit my shot without it like resonating pain like down my whole arm. Gets down a break and get 2-3. She just kind of looks at me and goes like, don't worry, I'm going to figure this out. Time to get gritty. And she just kind of gets up and sure enough, figures out a way to win, gets through the match. At 4-3 in the third, I don't know if you saw this, she had break point to get up 5-3. I've actually never seen this either. Emma's 10 feet behind the baseline, throws up a defensive lob, and Belgian shanks her overhead going into the back fence, and it hits Emma on the fly. So we're at 4-3 deuce, and we're dying. Everyone is like, oh my God. And she just laughs it off, no problem. Wins the next 2 points, wins the match 6-3. And like any other player would kind of be freaking out. And she's just like so cool out there. Nothing fazed her. And that match was like the craziest probably introduction I could have gotten to maybe this new job.
Those are things like, as nervous as you get when you're playing, like I never got more nervous than home ties in Davis Cup. I don't know how you feel about it, but talk through the nerves that you feel as, when you used to have to play and now as a captain. I would guess they're worse now, but is that a leap?
I think probably the same. It was so funny in leading up to doing this. Like I talked to everyone I knew that had kind of done this role before. I talked to Jim, talked to Mary Jo, but I spent like an hour on the phone with Billie Jean, and she was so funny. Like I had no idea. She was like, "Oh, do you remember when you were yelling at me on a changeover? Like I wasn't helping and I wasn't paying attention."
Oh, good. So I'm not the only one. No. I'm in good company, apparently.
I was like, "I didn't do that." She's like, "Yes, you did. That was against Spain." And she's like, "You don't even care. You're not even watching." I'm like, "I didn't say that." And she's like, "Oh yeah, you did." So she kept like going over all these things, which obviously is like the craziest nerves going through your system, right? Like, why would I ever yell that at Billie Jean? Like sitting there, obviously she's like on the bench trying to help me. I felt bad that first day that I felt like I wasn't helping them play better tennis. So I was kind of taking the blame there. I was happy on day 2, Jess played an amazing match in under an hour and won. But I was nervous. I was nervous for them. I was nervous for the team. It was an amazing group that kind of banded together and wanted them to do well. But yeah, playing is tough. I mean, you want to almost like throw up before you go out there.
Yeah. We kind of, I think Lindsay and I like talking tennis because I think we both felt like we were going to vomit before we went on the court, like every single time. And I'll tell you, I want to get back to Billie Jean King Cup. I want to talk about kind of the 5 months leading in, what made you say yes to the job, and then as we march to the finals. But Lindsay and I end up doing a lot of corporate appearances during the U.S. Open, and we have we've heard the same stories from each other numerous times. And Lindsay, I didn't believe her at first. I thought she was exaggerating, and now I do. Someone will ask her a question of like, how did you feel? Like something kind of, straightforward that you would expect. How did you feel before a Grand Slam final? And Lindsay will say something absurd, because if you've ever watched Lindsay, she's never she's going to square up the ball every time, and the ball is going to leave her racket faster than it came. and she'll say something like, I just wanted to win a game. I was so scared about losing 0-0. And it's the most insane shit that I've ever heard. But I actually, you actually like felt that way.
Totally insecure. I played in, I think it's 7 singles slam finals, and felt like that way every single time. Like, I think I always had this fear of like being embarrassed. And so I remember saying it to John, like early on in our relationship, like before I went out on some big match, like, oh, God, everybody don't lose 0-0. And he was like, wait, what? He's like, you're ranked 1 or 2 or whatever. I always was like fearing the worst out there. It's like, and playing in front of a lot of people did not give me joy. And I was always super envious of people that went out there and could like be relaxed and make it look like a show. I would love to go play. But my favorite US Open was actually, I think it was 93. I just turned 17. I think it was that year. And they only seeded 16 back then, but I was unseeded. It's the only US Open I played in singles matches on the field courts. It was like the greatest, like the best, my best win in the 3rd round. I beat Amanda Coetzer, who was seeded, I don't know, somewhere 13 through 16. And it was like the hardcore US tennis fans there. And that is honestly some of my like favorite memories, because from then on out, I was like on one of the 2 show courts, and it just caused more stress for me than joy.
So they wouldn't, did you petition them in the 98 final to maybe just like, did you request to play on grandstand?
I tried to mature and tried to accept it. But I don't know. I think if you're not that comfortable in the limelight or with the focus on you, I don't know if you ever become fully comfortable with that. And players talk a little bit more about it now with like their mental health and all that. But back then, like you couldn't say a word. You were like viewed as incredibly weak or like whatever. I remember Jim Courier telling me a story how players used to like basically like hide to go see at the time the one sports psychologist some players were using, Dr. Jim Lair, he's like, they'd literally go hide. They didn't want anyone to know they were doing that. Now it's a lot more open. Players are getting a lot more help and willing to talk about it, which I think probably has to help the other players. I felt like I was the only one who was like wanting to throw up in the locker room before most matches.
Oh, it's weird. I felt like I was going to throw up, but like I wasn't like, it wouldn't, I would have hated it because I would have felt like I'm not good. Like mine wasn't like, it sounds like you knew the tennis was there. You just didn't like the other stuff surrounding. I could have cared less if there were 12 people in the stands or 40,000 people in the stands. Mine was like, I was insecure about like ability. Like I wanted to vomit because I'm like, I felt like I had to execute so perfectly just to lose closely. But it wasn't, but it's just so strange that you kind of share emotions, but like the reasoning behind it is just different. Like I was good at being embarrassed. Like I do it to myself all the time. Like that wasn't an issue. But also like, so you go out there, you feel all of these things, but you were pretty stoic. Like you didn't react. You weren't like someone who got up and down. Like basically we would just see like the most violent eye roll of all time sometimes. But so that's just like, it's weird because we associate people who were more quiet, stoic, I guess maybe like emotionally disciplined on court with not being nervous. And that wasn't really the case for you.
No, it wasn't. And I think like just I would come out the other way where I was just like mean to myself or just not. It's tough. The bigger the occasion, it's not like I enjoyed it more. It wasn't like, oh, this is what we're playing for. It's 5-all in the 3rd. Here we go. Here's my chance. It was like I was always kind of fighting myself. Obviously, there's opponents where you're like, you better be all in or it's going to be a tough day. Steffi, Serena, obviously the great players, but more often than not, I felt like I was like battling myself, like even more on most occasions.
How open are you with your team? So let's kind of backtrack. You get offered the job. You're very good at like sourcing information. Like you go and kind of find the smartest people who have been there before. You mentioned talking to Billie Jean, Jim, Mary Jo. You're always really, really, really good at that. What kind of made you lean in and say yes? And then once you accepted the job, what was the process like? Obviously, like outreach to different players, because you kind of have it's weird. You have a great team, but also it's like it's like you're going to be spoiled for choice sometimes. Like you have so many good players that has to be kind of its own little caveat that's not easy to navigate. So kind of how did you handle kind of the build up and like maybe the initial outreach?
Well, it's funny. I also talked to Bob quite a bit. He helped a ton. Grew up with Bob in Southern California. I also talked to you, and you told me never take it. Do you remember saying that to me at the U.S. Open?
No, I don't think I said that.
Too. You're like, no, you did.
I don't think that's true.
It is true.
All right, I'll go back and look at those messages and read them in the post.
A great example is Danielle Collins. I had to pick the team by, I'm going to get it wrong, like March 6th or something. Danielle Collins was like 59. There was 6 or 7 players ranked in front of her at that time. She is amazing at representing her country, but I had to talk to her and just say, for this tie, no. And then look what happens. By the time the tie was actually played, she was like 15 in the world. Could not have been sweeter, more supportive. But Mary Jo also told me, there was a 1 year, I don't want to get the number wrong, but I think there was only like 4 players in the top 60 or 80 or whatever she said. So I realized that it's amazing to have all these players. At one point there was 17 in the top 100. I think we're at 16 now. A lot of players at the top, obviously led by Coco. So going to try and put together the best team that I can every time. But the other thing that is big for me is also the camaraderie between everybody. Like we want to have a great week. You want to have everybody cheering each other on, building each other up. We all have played under different rules. Every captain kind of brings in their own kind of unique twist on it. Billy was like adamant, there's no personal coaches around. This is a team week. We're 49, 50 weeks a year. You guys can go do whatever you want. For these 2 or 3 weeks you're with me, it's going to be about the team. You guys are going to learn to help each other. And I remember one time doing 2-on-1s with Celis and maybe one of the hitting partners. And, Monica and I weren't really good at that. We're like hitting winners on the 2 side. Billy's like, what the hell are you guys doing? You're on the 2 side.
They have to keep the ball in play and not hit it hard. That's such a problem for them not to hit it hard.
Monica, the sweetest person, she was like, I've never really done this before, but I'll do whatever, So you kind of like have this learning curve there. I think Bob told me, and Patrick McEnroe was saying like no spouses or girlfriends until like Thursday or Friday or something of your Davis Cup weeks. So I don't know. I was trying to get back to that where it was like the players working together. You've got to be able to practice with each other. You've got to be able to give your teammate what they need to practice sometimes as well. And these 5 ladies were great at it. So that part made it easy. We'll see when we get to Spain. It's in November. They changed the format again. One problem with this event, and I think you'll probably see it and have the same frustration with Davis Cup. It's like you can't keep changing the format every year. So we're going different dates and different formats, and we just found out about it in the last few days. So that's a challenge. We have to get back to kind of the history of the event and some stability.
So you guys qualify for the finals under a certain format, and then you just found out post-qualification that it's different. Can you explain what the changes are and where it's landed?
They've it used to be home and away ties where you just played the one country. The last few years they've been in Spain, and it's been a round robin, 3 different groups, and then the winners, or maybe it's 4 different groups, and then the winners went through to the semis. Now they've gone back to, this is like crazy to me. It's 12 teams. 4 teams have a bye into the second draw. 8 teams are playing knockout format to get 4 teams to the second draw to join those 4. I was like, wait, what? It's not round robin anymore. It's knockout. And so I guess we can go all the way to Spain, and hopefully we don't lose our first match. It's a long way to go. But we found out in the last few days. So I know they're trying to build the event, and Billy is a huge part of it. So obviously we're giving it a go, but I just think that at a certain point we got to get some stability to the event again.
I mean, I just don't fully understand when like the kind of consistent critique of whether it's Billie Jean Cup, formerly Fed Cup, Davis Cup, is like it's hard to follow throughout the year. Like it does well in a local market because we're basically advertising these great players. They're coming in for 3 days. So, we used to play in Winston-Salem a bunch. So they got it. They're like, we're going to T3s and we're going to like America. But then once you leave, I don't know where the event goes from there. Right. Like it's just hard to follow. And literally I felt like I needed to go back and take a math course when you were explaining it. It's like, how is making it more difficult? I don't know. It's easy to point out problems. I guess it's harder to come up with solutions. Taking this job, how important was it that you had coached before with Maddie?
That's interesting. I think a lot. I think there was some comfort there also with having her, obviously in the top 20 or so. But helpful. I think a bigger thing is just following tennis on a consistent basis, where I feel like I know the players pretty well, even though personally I might not know all of them that well. I feel like because of my work on Tennis Channel, I know almost all of their games. I have a pretty good handle on the other players from other countries. Did not have quite as good a handle on the Belgian juniors that are coming through. But for the other countries, so I felt like I knew exactly kind of the tennis that I was signing up for. I felt pretty good about it. And I'm also I'm involved a lot with the USTA and player development because of my son Jagger. He's part of that program. So I'm around like the system a lot. So it felt like if there was any time I was going to do it, it was going to be now. And being in Orlando quite a bit, we live in Florida now, so I spend a lot of time there. The timing felt right. The players right now are doing amazing. It kind of felt like cheating that I could walk in and there's, 2 players in the top 10 with Goff and Pegula. There's another 4 and, ranked between 11 and 25 or whatever it is. So, and I like them all. They all have a great vibe. I think in American tennis right now, the vibe between everyone is at an all-time high. I certainly know when I played at what was called Fed Cup, like there was no chance we were going to have some of the Davis Cuppers there watching us. And here we had in Orlando, we had Ben Shelton, we had Chris Eubanks, we had Mackie McDonald. I just think like everyone's getting along great between the pros are practicing with the juniors, they're helping the collegiate players. It just felt like a really good time to be kind of involved in this.
Well, that's cool. I think they're lucky to have you. I think I said I would never do it. I don't know. I think you're.
That could be true, actually. I mean, you could be right. You said, yeah, that could be right.
I think I said I would never do it for many, many, many reasons. But I think I was generally. I think you were overthinking it, and I think you're the person for the job. I think
you're actually right. I take that back. So you can maybe X that part out. But I do think you
I'm
said
gonna
no.
find it, and I'm going to play it in post, and that's that. I think, and I won't make you comment on the back of a compliment because I know that's your worst fear, but I think they're lucky to have you. I think you're going to do a great job. I think the amount that you care, even when no one's actually watching you care, is huge, and I know the players can feel that as well. You mentioned Jagger, and it's so fascinating to me because I know your children. We've spent time around each other's children. I don't say this, kind of trying to grandstand because you're on. You and John are amazing parents, like really, really, really involved, fantastic. You guys have completely opposite ways to go about it, and I think that is it's like this perfect mix of harmony. But Jagger is a really, really, really good player, right? He's a really good junior. He has been. I've hit with him. I remember when I'm hitting with him, you have zero, you didn't say a word. And John talked a lot, which is kind of standard for dinner, but also translates to talk through the challenges of having done what you've done. And John played, doubles on tour as well. And he was a really good college player. Talk through the kind of the challenges on what's the cadence between input because you know it versus stepping back because maybe that's what's called for at the time. Kind of talk about that delicate balance of having been a former player, knowing this, you're the captain of our nation's team, but also you have a child who's kind of going through maybe some paces that you've been through before.
Yeah. First, I have to say, my parents never got involved in my tennis. It's a tough sport. I mean, in juniors, you see a lot of different things. And my parents were smart enough to know they knew sports, but they didn't know tennis. John came from a tennis family and his dad was his coach and they had an amazing experience with it. That's not always the case. So he kind of came into it when we were having kids, like, oh no, it's going to be the greatest. We're going to have all these kids. They're all going to play tennis. And I say that, and every kid is different. So we have 4 children. They all learned how to play. 3 of them quit. So I blame John. I'm didn't make it more fun enough.
That's his fault.
Yeah. But, with similar to the Billie Jean King Cup, the very first week, and you know my personality, I'm not going to say too much. I'm not going to kind of go crazy and change anything. So I tried to be like a little bit more careful with Billie Jean King Cup and try and keep it a little bit more general. I'm just getting to know a lot of these players the very first week. I'm not going to be like, so why do you hold that grip? Why are you doing that? So with our son, I don't know why it is. Jagger is incredibly coachable. And I think you would hear that from kind of anybody who's like been on court with him. He takes it pretty well. He doesn't give it back to us and like, oh, be quiet or you're a parent or whatever. So that part is pretty easy. Of course, we get like frustrated with them for other things. And I have to like try and separate that. Like, okay, you're a month behind in school. If you didn't make one forehand up, separate the issues here. But we enjoy it. Like, it's actually really fun to get out there with him on the court. It wasn't so much fun with our daughters. They didn't enjoy it. So you can kind of see that they've gone on to other things. But also just navigating it in terms of like the biggest thing is we try and push is like the big picture, like this one match in this one city and wherever it is, Midwest, you know, it's not going to matter. Did you learn something this week from it or whatever? The big picture kind of helps. Obviously, the kids are so wrapped up in wins and losses, and that equates to either good or bad, and trying to get it a little bit bigger picture. But for most part, I think the journey with him has been like 90 to like 95% positive. Of course, we've had some like tough moments. He's had a lot of injuries and had to overcome a lot. But for the most part, we've always felt like as a unit, we all like work really well together, which is nice.
You know, it's a weird thing to say about a kid, or he's becoming like, I don't know if he's, I guess he's, you know, friends' kids, you always think they're kids, but he's like an adult now. It's weird to look at a kid when he's like 14 years old. And he's obviously older now, but like, and be like, that kid's a gentleman. Like he actually understands like conversation. Like he's a gentleman. Anyways, I think he's just the nicest.
One of the funniest stories,
ever,
like this is in junior tennis, like you see it all. And I think it was when he was 14 and maybe he was 15, 16 now. I think 14. He was like changing sides and his like opponent started like saying shit about me. It was like crazy. And he kind of was like,
I know better than that.
He was like, exactly. He was like, hey, what? And this kid is like saying my name and calling me like, you know, like swear words. I had no idea who the kid was. Like, I didn't know his name. I wasn't there. So John was there. So John's like texting me. He's like, I don't know what's going on. Jagger, I think, is hurt because he's like, I don't know if he's crying. He's like all rattled out there. So like one of the times Jagger gets a ball and he's like telling John, he's like, the guy just called mom, you know, like beep, beep, beep. And John was like, wait, what? So it's like, it's pretty funny you go through these things. Like he was like so rattled from it. He was, after the match, John was like, you know, next time, bud, you just go over there. And, you know, John, my husband's super feisty. Jagger's not. So John's like, dude, next time that happens, just go over there and like punch the guy.
And if you need any advice about that, just listen to Brian's episode again.
Actually,
to take someone out.
But you see some wild shit out there in the juniors. My goodness.
So two things I want to get your take on, and then we'll let you get out of here. So I think Jagger and I remember hearing this name twice last year, and it was from you and it was from Jim Courier. And there's like a little bit of, you know, people have opinions about it this week with young player Darwin Blanch. I mean, I don't know what our expectation set is. He goes out and he plays Rafa, loses 1-0. Now he's 16 years old. My opinion is that like there are steps that you can't skip, right? You need to go junior, which he's been successful in juniors, then challengers, then futures. And I kind of tend to blame a team that's guiding him. You put him in a situation where it's a little untenable. He's not ready to go on a run in Madrid. He's not physically, he's 6'4", but kind of has that like giraffe thing where you know he's going to be a monster, but he's still a little gangly. Like you have to be able to move. So it goes out there. Is that experience good? Should we be, and I understand they probably negotiated these wild cards way back when he turns pro. So it's tough to like say you can't have one now. The agent's kind of stuck because they've promised it, but how did you feel watching it? Going in, I'm excited. Then when it's happening, I'm like, I don't actually know that this is productive.
Yeah. So Darwin is the same age as Jagger. I think he's about 3 months younger. So we've obviously known him for a while. Amazing kid. Talk about a gentleman. He as well is a super kind soul, great kid. Every single kid in the juniors is cheering for him. That kind of tells you how well liked he is. It was really funny. Last year he played Kalamazoo. He played up in the 18s. He was still 15 at the time. He lost in the quarters. Obviously the winner got a main draw wild card, but the USTA, they know he's something special. They offered him the US Open quali wild card, and it was actually announced that he was taking it, and it was his team. And I would assume Juan Carlos Ferreira that said, no, you're not accepting a quali wild card at the US Open. You're not ready, is what the message that I got, whether that was from Juan Carlos or someone else on his team. They deemed Darwin not ready to play the US Open qualies. So he went back and he actually played the 16 and under Junior Davis Cup for the US. He went back and played like 15,000. I was surprised that in Miami, he rolled up and took a main draw wild card. Because I like you, I was like, isn't there like a little bit of progression there from saying 15Ks to maybe playing qualies, like take a quali wild card. But he played pretty well in Miami. Lost, I think it was 4-2. It seemed like against Rafa, it was like just a perfect storm of being on a court like that big, throw in a little bit of altitude, throw in like the greatest player of all time, or obviously one of the three, and he just couldn't play the way we're used to seeing. So kind of threw him out into the fire. I think on a side court against someone else, it would have been a lot better. You obviously can't control the draws. But it'll be interesting to see what they do now. Like, where does he go from here? Obviously getting a challenger win, just a main tour level match win and a challenger win is the next goal. But there's a long view in sight for Darwin. And I think that he's got good people around him. They'll kind of figure it out. But that just seemed like a perfect shitstorm yesterday against Rafa.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shitstorm when you're like 4 in the world playing Rafa on clay when he's feeling it, much less 16. So what the one thing, like the cautionary tale that like whoever is thinking through these things, and I'm sure there's like a renegotiation of strategy with what tournaments he's playing and when we dip our toe in and when we do a cannonball. But like the Donald Young of things, where he went 0-15 in his first main draw matches, and I think it had a significant effect on his confidence for like years. Like I think he was a phenom when he was 15, and I don't think he actually was tour ready because of all these, beatings that he took. If all you do is lose for 2 years, even if you want to qualify it with, experience, this, that, and the other, like as you're progressing, you have to feel like you're winning something sometimes. Like I just feel like you have to feel like you're doing it. And so listen, Ferrero's on board. It sounds like his setup is way more advanced than Donald's was, frankly, at that time. So listen, because he goes out and lays an egg against Rafa in that scenario, I don't think anything different than I thought of him a week ago. Like this kid's a stud. He's going to be mad. I mean, you can't teach 6'4" lefty who can create speed. You just can't. And also, it's like, let's incentivize it. Let's quarter semis of a challenger, and let's kind of take baby steps, because we're always so thirsty, especially on the male side, for whoever that next person is. Let's just take a beat. He has plenty of time. He needs to develop physically. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, and then we'll let you run out of here because I know you didn't even want to come on, is talk about your gold medal. Obviously, you had family history of being in the Olympics, and when I hear you talk about that, it's as full-throated as I hear you. When you talk about like kind of the pride felt going in, your family being in the Olympics, just talk through kind of winning that gold and what it meant to you, and kind of the either pressure systems or opportunity systems based on your family's history.
Yeah, first, my dad was like a huge patriot. Like it was always, red, white, and blue, and everything in our house. So grew up like that way. When I was 8, the Olympics were in Los Angeles, where I grew up, and so went around to like all these events, which I think actually had a profound impact on me, where my parents both worked those Olympic Games in the volleyball part. And I have a sister who's 16 years older. And so she was like taking care of me for those 2 weeks where my parents were working, and took me to like all these events. We went to like cycling and swimming, the opening ceremonies, like all of these great experiences. So I had like a little bit of a sense of what it was. Then in 96, back then, there was only 3 singles players for each country. There was 4 of us in the top 10. So it was incredibly like competitive and so no one really knew who was going to make it. It kind of came down literally to the last week. I think at that point I was the 3rd singles player. I think at the time I beat out Mary Jo by just a little bit, who was my best friend. So that was like really hard. She ended up getting on the team when Chanda couldn't play because she had wrist surgery. But it was, so just to make the Olympics was like such a huge honor. I was going to be, by the time the Olympics came, just 20. My family couldn't believe it. That was like everything to them. I would say the opening ceremonies in Atlanta was possibly like the greatest moment for me in like my whole professional career. A lot of people go to a win, but like it was so overwhelming. I think it was 110,000 people. Obviously we waited for like, you know how opening ceremonies go. It's like a flip and grind. Like you wait like 6 or 7 hours to get on the field. And then all of a sudden USA is the last team coming down. As we were about to walk down onto the field, for some reason, there was like a really steep ramp for everyone to get down. And Billy was like, oh my goodness, like, I don't think I can do this. So we all kind of locked arms. It was Monica and Gigi, Mary Jo and myself to like help Billy kind of get on the field. And everybody like going crazy, obviously. And then nobody knew Muhammad Ali was going to light the torch. And it was like a night that was just like insane. You know, we're sitting there with all the other athletes. It was awesome. As the tournament went by, it was like the most fun I'd ever had. And that's probably why I played so well. I think I was seated like 11 or 12, somewhere like that. And it was crazy. Just kept playing and having fun and not really thinking about anything. No big deal. There was no ranking points. It was like, oh, let's just go out and play and then we'll see what events we can go to. And all just kind of fell in place. By the time I got to the final, my family, who rarely ever came anywhere, they all kind of flew in. My dad was working the volleyball event, so he was there, but then my sisters came in, and it's like the most proud I've ever been on a tennis court to be able to win the gold medal for our country, especially in the United States as well. It was an amazing moment.
Yep, that delivered. That's how I remember you talking about it. I love it. Lindsay, I know you have to go. You are traveling today. I just one more question. Are we okay?
We're good.
Are we good?
Good.
Are we okay?
We're good. We'll be up in North Carolina soon.
Okay. I think the world of you. Say hi to the family. You're the best. Thanks for coming on.
Anytime.
Cheers. Thanks, Lindsay.